Hello everyone, welcome to Aptitude Arena. In this video, we are going to see some basic tips to calculate percentage faster. In order to do that, you have to be good with the following things. Let's start with 100% of a number. 100% of a number is nothing but 100 divided by 100 into that number. So 100 and 100 will get cancelled. So the result would be the number itself. So 100% of x is equal to x. Same way, 50% of x would be 50 divided by 100. When you cancel it, you will get divided by 2. So which is half of that number. So 50% of x is x by 2. Same way, 10% of x would be dividing a number by 10. So 10% of x is x by 10. If you want to calculate 5% of any number, just go for half of 10% of it. Since finding 10% is easier, just divide the 10%, you will get 5% of that number. Same way, 1% of a number is going for x divided by 100. Divide any number by 100, you will get 1% of it. So let's take a number to evaluate all these things. For example, if you take 48, 100% of 48 would be the full number, 48 itself. Same way, 50% of 48 would be half of 48. So half of 48 is 24. Same way, 10% of 48 is 48 divided by 10, which would be 4.8. So as we know 10% easily, we can find 5%, which is 5% of 48 would be half of 10%. So which is 4.8 divided by 2, which would be 2.4. Then 1% of 48 is 48 divided by 100. So which would be 0.48. Now, when you are able to find these percentages for a number, you can find any other percentage for this number by using these things quite easily. For example, if you want to find 15% of 48, instead of going for 15 divided by 100 into 48, you can simply go for finding 10% of it, finding 5% of it, then adding those things will give you 15% of the 48, right? So how will you find 10% of 48? Just 48 by 10, which is 4.8. 5% is half of 4.8, which would be 2.4. Adding them up, you will be getting 15% as 7.2. Let's take some more examples by using some random numbers to understand these things. So let's start with 55% of 84. Now, instead of going for evaluating it as 55 divided by 100 into 84, let's split this 55% as 50%, then 5%. So that when we add them up, we will be getting 55%. Now, what does 50% means? Half of 84. What is half of 84? 42. Same way, 5%, 10% of 84 is 8.4. Half of 8.4 is 4.2. Or 50%, 42 means 5% should be divided by 10th of it. So 4.2. Either way, when you add them up, you will be getting 55% of 84 as 46.2. So these things, when you are doing an exam, you can easily do it in your mind itself so that you can save a lot of time. Now, let's take a few more examples. Let's go for 65% of 88. So now 65% can be found by, first I can find 50%, then I can find 10%, 50 plus 10, 60% be found, so remaining 5%. So if I am able to find all these three things and I add them up, I'll be getting the 65% of 88. So again, what does 50% means? Half of 88, which is 44. 10% is 88 by 10, which would be 8.8. Then 5% is half of this 10%, which is 4.4. So now adding them up, we will be getting 65% as 44 plus 8.8 plus 4.4. When you add them up, 44 plus 8 is 52, plus 4 is 56. 0.8 plus 0.4 will add up to 1.2. So 56 plus 1.2 would be 57.2. So 65% of 88 is nothing but 57.2. So 50% is 44, 10% is 8.8, 5% is 4.4. Adding them up, we will get this thing easily. Now, moving on to one more example. 35% of 72. So getting this thing, like, you can frame your own ways of solving. You can also go this like 50% minus 15%, or if you watched our previous video and if you're good with equivalent fractions, then you can also go for 25% plus 10%, because Finding 25% of a number is quite easier. It's nothing but 1/4 of a number. So what is 1 by 4th of 72 would be? It would be 18. Same way 10% of 72 is nothing but 72 by 10, which would be 7.2. So adding them up, we will be getting 35% of 72 as 18 plus 7.2, which is nothing but 25.2. If you are yet to watch our equivalent fractions and basics of percentage video, I'll be providing the link in the description. Kindly watch it. It will be highly useful for all the equivalent fraction understandings. Now, going for one last tough example, let's take a harder one. 78% of, let's find 78% of 95. Now when you get things like this, mostly you would go panic in your test. So what you have to understand here, one more important basic is, whenever you get any percentages, things like this, one of the number will be very easy to find the percentage. Whereas if you look at this question, we are given with 78% of 95. Finding 78% of number might be quite difficult. Instead of doing 78%, you can also take it like, in the last video we've seen x percentage of y can also be taken as y percentage of x. So 78% of 95, we can take it as 95% of 78. Where finding 95% is quite easier, we can find 100% and then we can subtract 5% of it, so that we will get 95% of it. Where 100% of 78 is nothing but 78 itself. Then 5% of 78, 10% of 78 would be 7.8 divided by 2, which would be 3.9. So be careful, here we have to subtract in order to get 95%. So 100 minus 5%, which would be giving us 95% of 78 as 78 minus 3.9. 78 minus 3 is 75. 75 minus 0.9 would be 74.1. So like this, you can find even harder kind of percentages quite easily in your mind itself if you are good with these kind of splitting and doing the calculations. So now I'll give you some questions to practice from your end, and kindly post your answers in the comment section. I will be posting the answers in my next video as well. So these are my 5 questions to try it out. Like for the first one, 45% of 86, next one is 61% of 48, then 36% of 64, 72% of 90, and then 48% of 75. If you are good with equivalent fractions and calculating percentage by splitting, then you can handle any percentage calculations in your exam quite faster. So just knowing these things is not enough. You have to apply in your problem solving to get used to it. So see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you are yet to subscribe, please subscribe to our channel. Signing off, Hemanathan.